the County Transportation Committee's retreat. And hopefully you did enjoy Jim and Nick's. We're going to start a roster list coming around, and while we're doing that, we're going to start over here, and I'm just going to ask you to introduce yourselves.
Jim Hurst, I'm with Slurry Papers.
Christy Julio Cook, I'm Beaufort County Engineering.
Rusty Bratz, Beaufort County Engineering.
Pamela Bernard, Beaufort County Engineering.
From Bauer, Engineering.
Henry Tavernier, County Council Vice Chair, District 6, so you're almost in my district, not quite.
Jim Backer, Beaufort County Transportation Committee.
Charles Berry, Beaufort County Transportation.
Jenny Kozak, Beaufort County Transportation Committee, and a retired transportation planner.
And the Beaufort County Transportation Committee, District 9.
Ken Holton, Pavement Technology, and I found out I'm Jenny's new best friend.
You hope.
Larry Daniel, Beaufort County Transportation Committee. Tim Henderson, SCDOT District Engineering Administrator.
Daniel Burton, SCDOT, District Construction Engineer.
Tracy Bruton, RCE, SCDOT, Beaufort Jasper.
ARC, DOT.
Jason Farrell, Blythe Construction.
Taylor Ross, City Program Administrator, DOT and Columbia.
Mike Gilly, SCDOT, Beaufort Maintenance, RME.
Tom Carver, Beaufort County Transportation Committee.
David Johnson, Beaufort County Transportation Committee.
Again, thank you all for being here. One of the things,
Beaufort County Transportation.
One of the things that we've enjoyed through the years, and that has been developing a relationship with District 6. And we can't thank you enough for coming down and being with us today. We really appreciate your support and help that you've given us through the years. So it's very, very much enjoyable to have you here. One of the things which, dating back to 2016, Beaufort County didn't have a paving program of any sort or type. They decided when they got a little money, they'd figure out a road somebody was complaining about, and they'd go pave it or take care of it. And never had such a thing. And so I passed out to you today a document which says yearly recruiting totals. And that yearly recruiting totals gives you an example of what we've been able to accomplish. If you look at SCDOT routes, hot mix asphalt, 57 miles, crack seal at 0.82, chip seal 16.63. The list goes across again with the county and the same hot mix asphalt, microsurfacing, and rejuvenator. When you do the total, we've been able to accomplish 233 miles of Beaufort County roads in this period of time. When we look back, Brian and I was doing the count yesterday, Beaufort County in itself only owns just a little over 200 miles of roads. So we've been touched almost all our roads. We're making great progress touching our roads. And if you look at the state, we've been doing a real good job of touching state routes as well. So that's a compliment to the committee and the committee's work and effort. So I'm going to ask you to flip over and go to the opposite side now for a little bit. Whenever we held our meeting in January, that today's meeting would be for the purpose, and we have a quorum. The purpose of it is we need to do some business, and that business is we had two projects out for bid, Bluffton Parkway resurfacing and US 278 resurfacing. As a reminder of what it is, starting at Buck Island, we're going to pave down to the traffic circle on resurface it down on Bluffton Parkway. And on 278, we just completed a bunch of work at 170 and 278. And what we're going to do is go on Main Line 278 and bring it up from the intersection of the bridge over, what creek is that? Okatee, the Okatee River Bridge we're going to bring it up to the traffic light, all 4 lanes. And so the first item is approval of bids for 278 Blythe was $645, $526.50. I'd like to have a motion for approval so we can send it to council for approval.
So moved.
We have 3 people.
And I have first, or as a second. Any conversation? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The next item is Bluffton Parkway. We did get 2 bids for it. The Bluffton Parkway resurfacing is $2.4 million. Again, it takes it from Buck Island down to the traffic circle, and that's a mill and fill project. I would entertain a motion for approval of the contract. Do I have a second? Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. A little bit more with that than, and I call this to your attention, Tim, just a little bit, and something we started doing in our 33% that we have to contribute, the dollars we get back on the state work. Yes, we're spending money, forecast for our own Year 8 county resurfacing projects. But what we've done is we made the decision that we would go on 2 different groupings, less than 500 ADT and 500 to 2,000 ADT. And when you look at the engineering directive 63 and 64 the DOT put out, these are routes that you all will never touch. I mean, they're low volume, low density, nobody's on them hardly, and so we're doing last year we did the first scrub seal when Michael Black was still with us, and Michael was shocked because we used the scrub seal with lightweight aggregate instead of number 2s or larger rock, and it came out very successful. It works perfectly on routes that get low ADT. And roughly we have planned on contributing $500,000 on each one of those 2 pockets every year. Again, go down the list that you have in front of you. I went ahead and added it up. Our projection is just around $7 million we'll be spending this year. And that $7 million takes off our I brought it with me, where did I put it? My spreadsheet. We were forecasting $10.8 million. So that gets our dollars that we've captured down to about $3 million left in the pocket to spend. There's one other item besides we'll be out back in to the committee probably at our March meeting if it goes correctly. We will be doing our Year 8 county resurfacing, our Year 3 low volume secondary roads, and our Year 1 500 to 2,000 ADT. So that'll be at our next committee meeting for approval. It's going out to bid this within the next week or so. The other thing that we have coming up is that we are doing our road review again. And we'll be putting that out to bid. Our last time, I think we had 8 bids for companies who wanted to do an analysis of our roads. But we did Year 1, we did it again in Year 4, and we're doing it again now in Year 8. And it's really remarkable, as a little bit of history, when we started our program the first time around, we had 0 roads in the good or very good rating. And we had something like 12 miles in the very poor. Well, by the time we got done with our first 5-year go-around, we had 78 miles of roads in the good, very good condition, and 1 mile left in the very poor. And that one that was in the very poor has been taken care of since then. So we've made a lot of great progress through the years.
If local media would only cover that progress,
It's been an astonishing progress we've made through the years.
it really deserves, more, some public recognition. I mean, other people don't know about it.
We've worked very diligently through the years to come up with a very good program so that it's not driven by politics or anything else. It's driven by need and how we can have the best bang for our dollar. And that goes back to doing a lot of, using the rejuvenator as a process, which works very well. We'll be talking about it a little bit later. But the program has been very, very successful, and it's through the efforts of the committee, and I commend you all for that, and I thank you for your support. Program is set up basically now. I've said my business, and we're going to, Ken is going to be on first, and followed by Tim from Slurry Pavers. These two both have done work for us through the years, and one of the real purposes with Ken being here today is that he has a product which he talked about 2 years ago, just in the very early stages of it, but it's a product which I think will be very beneficial. We would like to, Charleston did some tests with it and won some major awards with it because of its involvement in taking CO2 out of the air and putting it in the pavement. And it really works extremely well to help the air that we breathe, and goodness gracious, we need to protect it as best we can. So without further ado, you're on, Ken.
System. So that'd be Beaufort County's first thing and Brian's with that company.
Yes.
Okay. So Brian, I was just giving you all those accolades, and it may not have been recorded, so sorry about that. So anyway, it's been fun to work with Brian, and so it's been almost 9 years. What do I need to do?
Well, you don't need to just do it from the test, so we can get it on the TV.
Oh, just stand here?
Yeah.
Okay, you got it, all right. I'm going to carry this thing around. I'm not used to being chained like that, so sorry about that. So I've been with Brian, since this is year 8, it's probably been almost 9 years that I've seen how Beaufort County has gone through this process. And it's just recently, here in the last, 2 or 3 years, that I've even realized there's much behind the scenes, or this much behind the scenes. So, thank you all for having us come and give the talk. I'm going to be working with Tim. Tim and I do workshops together, which has really been a lot of fun. Tim and I got to know each other a few years ago, and we've both been pretty passionate about pavement management. And so I know there are a couple of you guys in the room. So whoever likes looking at the pavement as much as we do, Yeah, I kind of feel sorry for you. I feel sorry for your families when you go on vacation. All right, but that's what we do. I mean, pavement management, we both have a very strong background in that. And so when you hear us talk to you, we come with not just representing a company or a product or something that we want you to do because it's something that we do. We are with these companies because these are things that we know work. They've been tried and true for decades, and they've shown a lot of value. So we work for hundreds of agencies and show the value. But these products are used not just in South Carolina, or the United States, but they're used around the world. So these are things that you're participating in. Now, not all processes can be done here. Maybe a contractor doesn't do them, or maybe the local contractors, Blythe, I see you're here, they don't see the value in adding those things to their repertoire, because maybe materials availability or whatever other limitations might be there. We're a sub as a company to Slurry Pavers in some areas and to Blythe in other areas. So we all work together in the same sandbox to try to give you the most value to your network. So one of the things that we do, and Tim and I sit on a couple of boards together, I think you're going to talk about that later? Yeah, a little bit. He's kind of low-key on that, but he's a lot of work Tim's been doing to help with this pavement preservation. We both sit on the Southeast Pavement Preservation Partnership Board, which is part of the National Center for Pavement Preservation. So we participate nationally as well. But specifically to what we're talking about today, we're going to talk about a couple of benefits to your roadways. We're talking about how can the value come to your road, and there's some environmental benefits that we're going to bring to the roadway with some of the products. So the two products will be maltines and titanium dioxide, specifically photocatalytic grade titanium dioxide. Do you have any questions before I get started? All right. So I heard I had 3 hours, so we are going to rock and roll for a while here. All right. All right, so our company, just so you know, our company's been in business since 1972, and we have been doing preventive maintenance the whole time. The flagship product that we have is a maltine asphalt rejuvenator, maltine-based asphalt rejuvenator, and we're going to get into that in a minute, but maltines are in asphalt. That is the glue. That's the period. We also get into joint bond stabilization. So the weakest piece of the pavement, we've developed some products that actually will benefit those, even if we don't want to go to the whole roadway. I'm not going to talk about the pavement joint a lot, but what our goal is, and if you can imagine driving down, DOT is here, that paving joint a lot of times fails first. We don't necessarily need a higher level of service than what's already in that travel lane. The travel lane's going to age, and it's going to fatigue, whatever's going to happen due to traffic volumes. But the paving joint, which doesn't get a lot of traffic on it, it's deteriorating. So the joint bond material is meant to slow the deterioration down in the paving joint so that it is closer to the life cycle of the travel lane. All right, and it's been used very effectively. So that is the joint bond. We're going to show it in a little different light today. And then the titanium dioxide is that bottom picture right there. Sorry, can you see it okay?
Thanks.
So they made me stand here right in the way.
No, I can see fine.
All right, so myself, my name's Ken Holton. I was a city engineer for 24 years. I handled streets and drainage for a little town called Tampa, Florida. Pavement and asset management is just a big piece of what I had to deal with because I had a lot of inventory in a small space, and it was all urban. I had very, very little rural infrastructure. My agency had decided before my time that they were going to be involved with pavement management and development of those tools, so we were a partner with the development of Paver. That was the Department of Defense, Federal Highway Administration, and then airports around the world, as well as some of the municipalities. And from way back in the mainframe time, when all you could do was house, in our case, you could only house about 5% of the network. So I've been involved with pavement management. I grew up with it in my time with the city. And then a guy you probably know, Richard Turner, he kind of wrangled me in to help rewrite this roadway maintenance guide for the American Public Works Association. So I'm one of the contributing authors for that. We all know the pavement deterioration curve, all right? But if we start with this curve and you think about what is the worst way to manage your asset, well, it'll be from the bottom of the curve, all right? And Tim, down the bottom of the curve, full depth reclamation, are we at $40 a yard? 40 to 50. All right, so if you think of every little 3x3 patch of pavement that you have, if you were to manage it down here at the bottom of the curve, you have to spend between $40 and $50 just for every 3x3 spot. All right, that's crazy. Come up a little bit, cold in place recycling, that's just a little shallower, try to stay in the asphalt binder parts. Hot in place recycle, that's been done in Charleston County, if any of you got up there to see that process around the airport. But they stayed in the top inch and a half of the binder itself. And then you get up into asphalt overlay. So that's kind of the mainstay of the industry. Mill, overlay, all right, it's a great tool and a wonderful place to be in your toolbox. Cake seals, that's just a chip with a micro on it, and the microchips. Crack seal, Tim's going to touch all those areas. But asphalt rejuvenation, that's really where I'm going to talk, because this is a preventive maintenance that the county has found very beneficial. But again, places around the world have found it. So this is a very, very big piece and growing piece of the toolbox.
I'm going to interrupt you for just a second. When Richard Turner was with Charleston County, he did a study, and this was presented to the CTC, statewide CTC, about 6 years ago. And they basically did a study, and they dumped $10 million in the program for 10 years, or $100 million went in. And all they were doing is full-depth reclamation, that end of the spectrum, not doing any of the upper level, micro resurfacing, chip and seal, and so on. They started off with 84 miles of very poor roads, and at the end of 10 years, spending $100 million, they wound up with 88 miles of very poor roads, because they were not doing any of the other pavement strategies. So that's how important it is to be doing all of those items, and as we are doing all those items, and that really makes a difference.
Right, so as you pick and choose this toolbox, and I mentioned the bottom end, $40 to $50 a square yard. Tim, in the middle, microsurface, roughly $4 to $5 a square yard. So 10 times less if you stay up in the microsurface, and cake seal will be a little bit more, but if you stay up in the middle of this and above, and then all the way to the top, what's circled, that's rejuvenation, we're still just over $1 a square yard. So a quarter of what it would cost minimum to do a microsurface. So you want to stretch the life of the road as best you can. Keep a good road good. Asphalt begins to deteriorate at the plant. We know that. And actually, it's deteriorated a little bit before that, because we're trying to recycle some of the aged material back in and try to reclaim some of the binder that's still useful. The aggregates are still good, but you still have to recoat them, and then we're trying to make up some of the old binder. What's interesting about asphalt is it's plastic. When you heat asphalt, asphalt will move. That's one of the characteristics. That's why we can put it through a paving machine, and then when it cools off, you can drive on it. But being plastic, it goes right back into this drum right here. They heat it up, and then it recoats the rock. You add a little bit more asphalt cement to it, and then you're hoping to get some reclaimed asphalt cement out of the old wrap that's in it. And what DOT, what's the percent you're allowing here? 30? Do you know? Not sure. Okay. So some DOTs will allow, and some agencies will allow 40, and they're trying to go 50% wrap. And I'm seeing those pavements just, they show that they're already 10 years old in less than 1 year when we do binder testing. They just are so hard and so cracked. They're not holding on to the rock like they should. So in South Carolina, I don't know what it is, but we're seeing, once you get above about 20 to 25%, you really start to see a hardening effect of that asphalt that's not desired. All right, but that's what's happening here at the plant. At the plant, you're also above 300 degrees, and you're starting to drive off the magic word maltines, all right, which are the glue inside the asphalt cement. We put that nice road out there. We love it. It's doing great, but it's going to oxidize. Some of those oils are going to escape the roadway. Some of those oils are going to convert into asphaltenes, and you're going to start getting what's supposed to be the glue of the asphalt. You're going to start getting that out of balance. When it gets out of balance, that's when you start seeing distress to the pavement, cracking, weathering, raveling. It's as simple as this process right here to put those maltines back in. All right, so there's an emulsion in these trucks. The material has to have a dye in it. So it has a pink dye in the material that Brian's been using here in Beaufort County. That's a pink dye, a very manly dye. We love it. And so what it does is it's to let us know that all those nozzles are working, that we're covering the road in a fairly uniform fashion, which is what we need. And then that pink color does go away quickly as the material penetrates the roadway. The titanium dioxide material is actually yellow. And again, it's just there's a quality control effort so that we know it's working. And in this case, we're treating shoulders of a major highway. So maltine replacement technology, it was developed in the late 50s. All right, so this is kind of a quick history lesson. Developed in the late 50s by Fitz Ross, or what he was trying to figure out was asphalt binder has held up for years and years, like thousands of years actually. Some of the old Roman roads actually had some asphalt in them, and some of it was still there. All right, it wasn't all just cobblestones and things like that. But you found some asphalt there. But what he found was, why are our asphalts aging? And what are the components in there? Because it's mostly rock. Why is it coming apart? And what he found out was, by separating out the binder part, that there were these light oils and resins that do deteriorate over time, and they're called maltines. So when they oxidize, that's when you start getting distress of the pavement. The purpose of maltine replacement is to put in what's lost, okay? Not dilute what's left. So we don't want to just soften the asphalt. We want the asphalt to, yes, be a little bit more resilient, more flexible and adhesive, so that it can bend, it can be a little softer. But we want it to be durable. We want it to stick together. We want that glue to be in there. And the glue in asphalt is maltines. Right, and we found that in many places, in my own program as well, I could treat the road, if I did it early enough, the road stays in great shape longer, but I can actually treat that road 2, 3, even 4 times, depending on how well that road was constructed. All right, roughly, that's what the oils look like. All right, these are representing the light oils and resins, which are the maltine fractions. And if you look at the curve that's developed here on the right side, that red line would be an untreated piece of roadway. That untreated piece of road, where you see it, that's a harder road than the green line. So we influence the binder to the green line. These are actual quarry tests from Charleston County. So the red line is the control, and you can see somewhere out there around year 5, the next time we treated it around 7, or tested around 7 years, that binder's starting to take an inflection point. It's starting to get harder faster. All right, and that's kind of how you see the deterioration curve drop off faster. So as it gets harder, your deterioration of the road happens faster. And what we are meant, what the green line is showing is we quell that steepness of the curve. We slow that deterioration down. We push the curve out so that you have a much better road longer. All right. What does it look like to you and when you drive the road? This is actually a Google image, and you can see right here, that's the beginning of a test strip. That test strip was actually put down later than I wanted it to be put down, but it was done 4 years after the road was paved. And it was done for, I think it was about 150 or 200 feet down that roadway. And so the road just happens to be called Binder Road. So, yeah. And this road in this picture is 20-year-old asphalt. All right. So what's interesting is you can see the moisture hanging out in the roadway. That moisture is hanging out because the road is open and accepting of the moisture. But in the area that was treated, even in this case, it would be 16 years after the material was put down, that road is still sealed somewhat from the inside out, that it's dry. Right? We can see that just on a Google image. And so think about the oxidation, think what's really taking place inside the crack of the road. I'm going to show you, everyone's familiar with van surveys, and also these are vans that drive down the road with fancy cameras and crack mapping equipment. All right, this is what you're going to see here. This is that untreated piece where all the moisture was hanging out. Can you see the crack pattern? It's red and yellow, okay? So that's how developed the cracking pattern is. It's significant on this roadway. In the reclamite treated area, it's just a single line. That is fatigue. I would call it low fatigue, but it's wheel path cracking, not high fatigue. So the county actually saw this, and just under 1 year ago, they resurfaced this road. And I said, there goes my test strip. And they said, that's okay, go put another one out there. So in December, we put another test strip out where you see this one. So we're gonna just repeat this process again. But this is what it can look like, slowing the deterioration curve down, just by something simple as a preventive maintenance. One of my customers, Joe Vitale, he is in Roswell, Georgia. He was getting his master's degree. This is the resultant page, the real meat and potatoes of his master's paper. And so what he noticed was his roads, he'd pave them, and they would deteriorate along this line right here. He'd get about 13 years of life from paving to having to repave it again. If he did preventive maintenance, and that was it, reclamite, and he did it at year 1 and year 6, so 5 years apart, he would follow that curve at least out to the point where he measured it, and then he estimated it would drop off after that. What Joe did was not just look at the deterioration. He said, let's look at the numbers, Virginia. He said, let's look at the numbers. We want to know where the value is. So he added up all the numbers, divided by the number of years that he was getting, and what he found out was, and here's the big key, right there, his operating cost of that roadway went down 29%. He was saving or extending the life of his roadway so well that he was getting a 29% reduction in cost. So without the material, let's say he was having to spend $1 a square yard a year, now he's only spending, 29% less, what would it be, 71 cents a square yard a year. All right, so that's basically what Brian's going after for you guys. How can I lower my annual operating cost per square yard of my road on average so that I can fall within the budget or not need as much budget? There's been a lot of product testing. A lot of companies want to come out and say, hey, we have a rejuvenation product. And so there's a lot of testing going on. DOT, y'all probably been part of some of these. But this is Minroads. What they found out was everything that's up in green, that's a maltine type rejuvenator. Everything that's maltine type, they tend to do very, very well. If you're not a maltine type, at some point you're going to accelerate the aging and you actually age faster than an untreated piece of roadway. All right, so be very cautious of what you do as a rejuvenator. But what we found out was reclamite and our ARA stuff that we're going to talk about today, they actually perform the very best out of all the products. In theory, if you see us working, it's going to look something like this. Our truck's going to run down the road. It's going to penetrate into the roadway. Pink. Turns to translucent. We don't obliterate the markings. You don't have to restrike the roadway. All right, so you'll see a little graphic there. That material is going to go right into the roadway. Nothing resides on top for very long. All right, and so once that process happens, we do put a light aggregate down, and then we sweep that aggregate up. Typically the next morning, we start sweeping that up. So this is kind of the whole process. It's usually done process-wise. What's that?
You go back to slide 10.
Yes.
So talk a little bit about the bottom right picture.
Oh, yeah, good question. So on the center line, we overlap that center line. That is the paving joint. That's the weakest piece of this pavement. So our protocol is overlap the center line. And so that would have been the last area where it got hit twice. All right. So we put more material into that center line. Typically, if I let it go, and you can see it here, it's already quickly on that center line. Right. But we do try to overlap 1 or 2, 3 feet in that center line area. And again, that's why joint bond actually was developed. Thank you, Tim. All right, so that's our whole process. We sweep it up the next day, and then that material is going to leave the road a little bit darker, but within a couple of months, it's going to grade back out to its original. Again, there's nothing to rub off, wear off, cause an eyesore for any period of time. What does it look like over time? What can you expect to see? This is a road that was paved, half the road was treated, you can see on the right. You can see the moisture hanging out. So basically, it's a penetrating sealer. So the material goes in, basically kind of swells or rehydrates the asphalt, it makes it dry quicker. That's part of, not the only reason, that's the part of the reason why you get less deterioration. Fast forward 9 years. Can you see the age difference on this road? All right. This side's pretty bad, needs to be redone. The other side is actually showing some distress after 9 years. So this roadway was in pretty bad shape. I think it was going to fall apart. There's something going on here, because even a reclamite treated road should not have that kind of distress after 9 years. All right. But you can see, even though there was a problem, by doing some preventive maintenance, you don't have that problem over the whole road. And if you do that wholesale, then around your paving program, then you have a better chance of saving some of the, potentially, I'll say, roads that might have had an issue to start with. All right. Here's another one. There's a series of 4 pictures, 4 sets of pictures. This agency didn't have enough money to do the mulching replacement everywhere, and so they did some. And they lost their funding after about 10 years of the program. They went out to say, all right, so after 10 years, they lost their funding. This was in 2008, 9, 10, 11, somewhere in there, but as the economic downturn finally caught up with them, they stopped the program. They started back up last year because of these pictures. And what happened was, they went out and they said, oh my gosh, some of our roads that we paved back in the early 2000s, some were in really good shape. Did we work there? All right, what they found out, the only thing that they did was they actually reintroduced mulching. They did preventive maintenance to the pictures on the left. Pictures on the right, same age paving, they were already starting to show significant deterioration. Same thing, we're going to come a little bit earlier in life, next year or two coming forward. So you can see preventive maintenance, no preventive maintenance, same thing, preventive maintenance, no preventive maintenance. This is the last one. Better condition where you did do some preventive maintenance and not so good. So this is kind of what we're going after. Is not all roads going to act the same, exactly the same, but if you just have a way to do some preventive maintenance. So my guess is everybody in this room did preventive maintenance today. Did you brush your teeth? Yeah. Everyone did some preventive maintenance. You don't want cavities. You don't want to take chances of anything going on. So you did preventive maintenance. You're going to do that anyway. And which teeth did you brush? All of them, right? So for the most part, if it's asphalt, this material is going to help asphalt. All right. And that's kind of what I think Brian is going after. Is as much as he can, he's going to try, because hey, we all know that things happen. Every once in a while, you might get a cavity, or you might need a crown, or you might have to do something. But here you are with your asphalt pavement. Not all things are going to act the same, but overall, a little preventive maintenance is going to go a long ways.
Ken?
Yes, sir.
The last time you were here and we talked about it, one of the questions that DOT had, and it was concern surface friction, and after it's been done,
Okay.
how, I know the answer, but I'm bringing it up so you would talk about it. There was always concern about surface friction after it's done.
Okay, so we are concerned about that, and so the light aggregate that's there, so this is a petroleum product, all right? Petroleum and driving surface, you are going to lower the friction number, okay? Friction coefficient. It's going to happen. It only happens for a short period of time. So that short period of time that it's abated, we need to abate it, is that like few hours after treatment. That's why we let the aggregate, we put the aggregate down so we can move along safely. We've had the material friction tested, the FN40 wet tire. What we show is that, yes, we influence it, but as soon as we put the aggregate down, we're back up into the safety range. And I've got a couple of different friction reports that, if you're interested, I can share with you. But that's our whole sole goal, is to make sure that we have a process that's safe. Because the last thing we need as a contractor is to have, unlimited liability out there. So we want to limit our liability. And that's one of the ways we do it. So we will positively control any area if we believe there's a friction issue or while the material is penetrating the road, we positively control it. We have stop paddles, or we will stop the traffic coming through the zone, or we will just shut off the lane. And then once we put the aggregate down, it's now safe to traffic. All the testing we've done has made it look like it's safe, okay, so its friction numbers back up. And then we sweep that aggregate back up. What we do typically see, and I didn't include it in here, was an FDOT report of long-term friction testing, like a number of years, but I do have that as well. So the material does get a little bit sticky, is what I would consider it with tires after the initial curing period. So it cures, aggregates down, sweep it up, and even before it's swept up, you actually kind of get a friction rise because there's a little grippiness that starts to happen with the material. Why it's doing it, I'm not exactly sure, but it's kind of, just kind of. All right, so if you have any specific questions about it?
With that loss of friction, is there, I noticed most of the slides were on what appear to be low volume roads. If you put down the additional aggregate, does it stay in place well on higher volume, mid to higher volume roads?
So it only needs to be in place for a very short period of time. Like I said, just I'm going to say a few hours. And traffic, so we've done Bluffton Parkway, Buckwalter Parkway,
Buckwalter as well.
Yep. Fording Island, I think between, that was a pretty major route that comes off of Buckwalter. That tells a motorcycle what's going on. As well as traffic will actually take that little bit of residue and move it along. Now, how many times have you seen it moved along? It will go, right? I mean, Buckwalter Parkway, it went half a mile, okay? So it looks like, I'll say it looks like an eyesore. You look down and you're like, oh my gosh, it's like tracking down the highway. What did we do? So it looks dark where the wheels are going. Well, that's just picking it up and moving it along. So it's not there anymore to cause a friction issue. All right, so that's part of high volume. It just moves it along. But also, if you stop and look and you say, wow, I see a dark track, and you look down, straight down, you see right through it to the pavement below. It's not like it's a tack track. All right, and then as soon as it rains, that just kind of dissipates pretty quickly. That and more traffic. Does that answer well enough? And again, if you got my card, send me an email. I'll send you friction reports that we have. All right.
I'll add that real quick.
Yep.
And it's just, when we've done it, generally, I don't know if you taught about this yet, but it generally penetrates within 15, 30 minutes. But on those high volume roads, they'll generally have their traffic control set up and just hold traffic a little bit longer before they get back. It's generally, done under essentially moving close.
And multi-lane roads are actually desired when we get up in volume, because we'll just close the lane. People can ride in the next lane over. I don't have any of those pictures in here of where we did the parkways out here. But basically, we just shut it down, and then the traffic ran right next to us while we were working. And they cycled through traffic signals and everything else. If needed, we can always say, hey, Brian, can you get them to lengthen signal timing, or can they watch the cameras or whatever, and we just keep them going the best you can. Because we don't want to back people up. COVID that year, man, that was fantastic. There was no one here. We worked out on Hilton Head in spring break and barely needed traffic control. So we wish we had that kind of situation all year with no traffic. But we do have traffic, and so we do have to mitigate all those things.
Have you done it on interstates?
We have. Yep. So and we were talking a little bit. If we get out on an interstate, real quick, we did a 20-mile stretch of I-40 out towards Wilmington, North Carolina, and that was an open graded friction course. The material, the reason that the whole project took place was we were asked if there's anything that we know of that could happen and help with to get rid of these wet weather crashes that were taking place. And so some of the aggregate had polished a little bit, and there was just a wet weather crash issue. we came in and we skid abraded, surface textured the open graded friction core. So that's shot blasting the surface. What we found out was when we shot blast the surface, that open graded friction also got shot blasted. So all the debris that was hanging out where you wanted the water to go, all that debris gets shot blasted, knocked loose, and then we vacuum it back out. And so it opened the matrix back up to like it should have been. And then we came right behind that, we put the multing material down. And then right behind the truck that puts the multings down, we had a very light misting of water, just to drive it right off the surface of the rock. No sand. We didn't put any sand out on the interstate, wouldn't have done any good anyway because it's an open friction course. So we found out that our friction numbers, I think we drove them up into the 70s with the surface texturing. So well obliterated any wet weather crash issues we're going to go on. And then I believe we, initially right behind our process, when we opened it up to traffic, we were still in the 40s and the friction numbers. So very, very safe. And then it just went up from there with the traffic taking it right back off the surface. So yes, we've done interstates. We don't do, that's really not our mainstay of the work, but we can mitigate any kind of roadway that we need to do if it was desired to do it. Sometimes, I kind of alluded back to this, joint bond was developed for high volume roads, high traffic roads, because you need a higher level of service. Open graded friction core should last how many years? 8 years? And then it probably has to be milled back off? All right. Well, in this case, the open graded friction on Interstate 40, it was already 7 years old. It should have been coming off, but they didn't have the money to do it, and they wanted to do it this way. Overall, it was still in okay shape. We put the multings back in, and they got another 8 years out of it. Not bad for an open graded friction course, because we put the multings back in before it got so bad that it could not hold together. All right. So I got to see that after they did the project, but I got to see the milling of that material come back up a couple years ago. So, yeah. Yes, ma'am.
I was just, since it's happening more often in this area and also other areas, does anything happen to the lifespan of both this treatment and other treatments you have when there's flooding?
So, no, I'm going to say it doesn't, what we do to the roadway is going to help that roadway be more resilient, hold out moisture, flooding, et cetera. So I was in Tampa, for example. Just like here, it rains, you've got tree canopy, and moisture resides on the road longer under a tree canopy. In that area, typically, the road begins to weather a little bit faster. All right. Where I would put the multings back in the road, it kept the moisture out of the road, so the road lasted longer underneath those trees. Same thing, if the road's going to flood, you've got the road already swelled, at least from the surface part. So if it's going to let loose, it's probably going to let loose from underneath. You're probably going to have a base issue. All right.
I was just wondering if you cut down on lifespan and
It would probably help the lifespan. Everything that we've seen is it would help. Even with things, and I'm not going to make any crazy bold claims, okay? But I've had engineering companies tell me that hydraulic spills, like garbage trucks, that it helps to keep that stuff out a little better. All right, so the roads don't seem to get damaged quite as badly. I had one area, the engineering company said, don't worry about this area coming up to the stop sign, the pavement was sliding. All right, so there was a bonding issue between layers of asphalt. And we said, okay, that's fine. I mean, just, we took pictures just to, here's what it looked like before we were here. Now, don't worry about it. We know it. We're fixing it. So we shot the road, and the engineering company said they actually took a little longer to get the road fixed. They said their photos showed the road did not slide anymore after we put the reclamite down. And I'm like, okay, I'll never make that claim, okay? He made the claim. But he said, I don't think we needed to actually fix it, because we could have just patched it at that point. They still milled it out and redid it, pulled it up. But those are some things that I would never advocate using the product for, but it can help with the bonding of the materials. All right. So like Tim's gonna talk about microsurface, you can put micro right on top of a road that's treated like we do, because we are the oils, or we're the exact duplicate of the oils that are in that pavement, so it's not gonna hurt anything. There have been other surface treatments that have said the same thing, like if you can stick to asphalt, you can stick with an asphalt treated by us. All right. And that goes for markings as well. This is microsurface. So Tim's going to talk about micro. The road on the right is the same road as the left, just a little bit further down the road. But this was treated with putting multings back in. That other side on the right did not have the multings, and so that's the control piece. And you can see it's weathering faster. So it is asphalt binder. Your $5 treatment treated with a $1 treatment to get a few more years. Yes, it's still economical, but it's not the same as doing hot mix asphalt. Okay. All right, where can we put it? We can put it just about anywhere. We already talked about a lot of it, but definitely shoulders, rumble strips, shoulders, great place for these things. Centerline joints, okay? It's not intended without other treatments on the travel lane of high-speed roadways, high-volume roadways. All right, but if you would like to put it there, DOT, then we'll have to talk about it. All right, that's a whole other project scope. All right, we're happy to talk about it, but yes, sir.
Impact. What's the best methodology? Recomine is one of those tools that they're looking at, along with.
Yep, great segue, because guess what? Boom. All right, here we go. So here's some rumble strips. All right, so this is where you cut. Basically, you can see the paving joint here, where that on a very low, compromised, dense area, most likely of that pavement. And you can see right down, and I'll just walk over here. Right behind the machine. That's less dense. All right, so that rumble strip was cut right on top of that joint. And it's going to be a little bird bass. That's what this product is for. Put it into the pavement, swell that pavement up, keep the moisture out, keep the elements out. That's what it's for. And the good news is this is before, during, right after the treatment, and then after it's penetrated, you can still see the marking just fine. All right, we worked with PPG and North Carolina DOT, and one of our goals was to find another solution, maybe a faster solution to get this down. So PPG, a big paint company, like probably the largest paint company, paint supplier, and markings manufacturer worldwide, they wanted to make sure that what we do with our joint bond material, either on top of or underneath the markings, did not change the color value. Change the color value, you change possibly how people view the marking. It's yellow for a reason, it's white for a reason. So they wanted to make sure that we weren't changing some of the real characteristics that they needed, as well as the reflectivity. So what we've done in a couple of different states, North Carolina is one of them, we put the joint bond material through a paint machine. All right, for this short of a run, this is about 1,000 feet. We didn't have a paint truck come out, a long line truck come out. We did it with a hand liner. All right, but what we did is two different areas. This was less than 30 days after the mumble strip was cut, the markings are put down permanent. All right, we're less than 30 days after. All right, so to a paint manufacturer, putting a product on top of a brand new marking is like sacrilege. All right. So that's why they were out there with us, and you can see that's a PPG vest on the guy running the paint machine. So what we want to do is just show, here's a potential process. You've got a safety issue that you're trying to abate. You're trying to keep traffic from crossing the center line with these rumble and mumble strips. You're also trying to keep them off the edge line. So we treated on top of it, and then we did retroreflectivity testing. And in no time were we ever dangerous out there, and it took about 6 weeks for it to return to at or above actually what it was before we started. We didn't get a lot of rain during that project, and what we believe is the retroreflectometer was picking up, and I'm going to say puddles. See that little puddle right there? I think it was picking up the heavy accumulation of the material, because on a regular flat marking, you don't get that kind of result. So I think it was kind of overseeing that. So what we did is some night drives, and I don't have a photo of that, but at night, you can't see a difference between treated and untreated, even when it was at its worst retroreflectivity reading. All right. What was very interesting as well was on this same project in a different area, we cut the mumble strip, we cleaned it, shot it with the joint bond, and then a couple hours later came back and shot it with the long line paint. And adhesion testing, so they've got these little devices they put underneath the marking, and then they pull the marking basically to see how well it's adhering to the roadway. They actually found that the marking adhesion was higher in the joint bond treated area than in the untreated area. Kind of an interesting thing. It surprised them. So thanks, Tim, for bringing that up. So here's just a couple examples of what you can do. Joints, you can see the joint. Here's a joint that was treated, and you can see the weathering. The moisture's not penetrating or staying. Shoulders are a great place. Of course, we already know neighborhoods. Things you already do here are great places. Now we're going to start talking about the titanium dioxide as one of the other co-benefits. So do you have any questions about maltings? Y'all have asked some good ones. So thank you. I don't know if you're going to hear this, so I may just move on.
Because small forests can remove the emissions of thousands of cars every day, but we don't have room for forests where air pollution occurs. What if cities used to connect more like the outside treated roads from pavement technology now? TiO2 is energized by light. Millions of electrons create an energy field atop the road. Pollutants are captured and oxidized instantly. Pollution capture is important technology, and scientists agree it's a proven way to remove toxic vehicle emissions like nitrogen. A single mile of titanium dioxide treated roads can stop 20 acres of trees. Now our city streets really can act like forests. Science. Real results. Pavement technology.
You like our commercial? All right. So this is kind of exciting. I'm an environmental engineer with a civil PE, and it was kind of funny when I came with the company. They didn't know me. They knew me as the guy that bought Reclamite for the city, and I went up to the office and I'm like, "What's that?" And they're like, "Oh, that's a patent." I said, "What's the patent for?" "Well, it's titanium dioxide." "For what?" All right. They were kind of coy with it, and I said, "For what?" And they're like, "Well, we put it in with Reclamite, put it in the roadway." I'm like, "That doesn't do anything for the roadway." "Well, how do you know that?" And I said, "Well, I'm an environmental engineer. I know." "What is it?" And they said, "Well, it's a photocatalyst." And I said, "Oh, you're cleaning pollution." And they said, "Yeah." And I said, "All right, I get it. And they're like, "How do you know?" And I said, "I'm an environmental engineer." All right. And so I said, "I've done pollution cleanup. I've done air pollution cleanup and other." So this is, to me, I was so excited about it that I went out in Greenville, South Carolina. They did a project because I was so excited about it. Right down Main Street, if you've ever been to Greenville, right down Main Street, all right? Right past Falls Park, everything. So I was so excited about it, and it was, Charleston said, we wanted to be first. And I'm like, "Oh, sorry, like you didn't tell us." But now Charleston County's doing a bunch. All right, so what are we doing? We found a way to retrofit the pavement with a photocatalytic material. All right, so I want you to look at the bottom of the screen. You've got Texas A&M, you've got Purdue. These are our research partners. Texas A&M is where we started, at their transportation research, Texas A&M Transportation Institute, TTI. We started there because what's the one thing? We've been in business since 1972, preventing damage to roadways. What's the last thing we want to do by putting a photocatalyst in the roadway? We don't want to damage the roadway, all right? We could be counterproductive. So we wanted to make sure we were not causing an issue. We found out we were not. That's good. So Texas A&M started us off there. We continued, all right? So we did tailpipe emission testing. We did solar reflective index testing. We did microplastic testing. We have reports on all those. I'm going to show you a little bit of that. Then we moved on to Purdue. Now, we're still with Texas A&M, but we moved on to Purdue because they actually have a whole nother set of testing and procedure protocols. So we found a need to move on into CO2 reduction, validate what Texas A&M has done. So we want to test and double test and make sure that we're bringing something to the market that truly is a benefit. The material has been used in other ways, all right? I don't know if you've ever heard of the self-cleaning toilet, all right? There's a UV light underneath the toilet ring, and it's impregnated with titanium dioxide. The UV light changes the shape of the water drop, and it cleans the toilet faster. Basically, the water gets behind the dirt. On the roadway, it changes the shape of the water drop, and it runs off the road faster, making it a little bit safer, All right. One of the world's fairs, I think it was in Paris, they had a building facade that was titanium dioxide impregnated to clean air pollution. All right, so this is not something that we came up with the titanium dioxide part. We just found a way to get it into the pavement economically. All right, so that's what we were trying to prove. All right, and so, you know, what if we could bring that future of making the pavement part of the solution to all the pollution that the pavement's bringing to your environment? All right, some of those big things, you know, the exhaust, heat, extend the life of the road, all right, which is what we're already doing. Decompose microplastics and accelerate water getting off that roadway. So these are some of the things that we really wanted to look at, and we had to find out, are these things that are a true need for the industry, all right? Raleigh, Carborough, Charleston County, they've all have products and awards in this area. We've got other awards, but these are some in this area where they've gone out and tried to quantify what they're doing in the industry. What does the process look like, and why is photocatalysis happening? What's happening? So UV light excites the titanium that we have in the roadway. As that titanium dioxide excites, all right, think way back to chemistry class. Electrons are floating around inside that titanium dioxide. UV light excites the titanium dioxide that's in what's called a valence band where electrons hang out. It excites them. The electron finally gets excited enough and it escapes away from the titanium dioxide. Another electron will come in to replace it, so titanium dioxide is not used up, but the free electron now jumps up above the roadway, bombards H2O, moisture, we have a lot of it around here, H2O, it breaks into a hydroxyl radical, OH and H. All right? The hydroxyl radical begins to work now oxidizing pollution. So this is what's called an oxidative reduction reaction. All right? Y'all can go study it later tonight. All right? But that's what's happening, is we are creating an oxidating environment to break down the pollution that's there. All right? All right, we developed it because I'm going to tell you, there were a number of things out there. I just mentioned on the overhead thing, but mobile source pollution, that was where we thought the market was most headed to. You needed vehicle emissions broken down. We have, I forget what the federal highway, it's a grant that most DOTs got. Basically, you did intersection improvements with it and things like that, just to keep traffic flowing, not sitting still.
Carbon reduction grant?
Well, the carbon reduction, that's the most recent, but there's a congestion mitigation, whatever it was, that grant. All right, so that was doled out by the DOTs. in every state. They got the congestion mitigation grants. So we thought this would be a great use of that funding source. Let's treat some of those areas that you can't, unfortunately, mitigate some of the congestion. You don't want idling vehicles sitting here, and we can clean up quite a bit of that exhaust. What we found out in our research is that about 26% of all the carbon emissions were actually coming from our transportation. Okay, so there's other reasons that we have it: heating, electricity production, those kind of things. That's a big piece, even bigger than roadways. But just the roadways and transportation, airports, about 26% is coming from there. So that's where we can influence. Heat island. Everyone's starting to talk about excessive heat, and they want to mitigate the heat island effect of the hardscape infrastructure. We're getting more and more people. They're getting more and more densely packed, and we're trying to find ways to do it. Yes, we can influence the solar reflective index, which is an ASTM method of how you determine heat island effect. Microplastics. We want to keep this out of our water. We're finding it everywhere. It's in us, okay? It's in makeup. It's in our fish that we eat. It's everywhere, right? So what if we can start to reduce some of what's coming off the roadways? Brake dust, tire wear. What does it look like? I know it's kind of that superoxide around the roadway. As you get further and further away from the road, it diminishes its effect, but what we have understood is it's going to go 18 to 20 feet. So if you think about an oxidizing tunnel about 18 to 20 feet around a treated roadway, that's what you're driving through, and that's a zone of influence. And here's what's interesting. I'm going to go right here. Y'all heard about EPDs, environmental product declarations? So environmental product declarations are out there trying to lower the carbon footprint of construction materials. You hit on the low carbon transportation materials grant. So everyone's trying to lower what it takes to produce. Get the aggregate out of the ground, get the oil out of the well fields. And when it deals with trucking, we have this blue stuff, DEF, that we have to put in the engines. We have these trucks that we have to buy that only idle so long, and then they'll cotton pick and shut off on you. So a lot of things that kind of interfere, but also are meant to lower our carbon footprint. Concrete, very carbon intensive. All right, you barely make up the carbon footprint over the life of concrete. So what if we could actually start not just mitigating the carbon footprint from the cradle to the gate, so from production to implementation in the field? What if we could actually go to what's called scope 3, which is unintended material coming across, or use phase, the intended use of the infrastructure, lowering the carbon footprint, lowering the pollution impact. All right, so that's where our products come in. We have very, very low carbon footprint. It's like less than a kilogram per square yard or whatever. Square meter, less than a kilogram per square meter. But we clean up many, many times that. We clean up tons a year per mile of that carbon. So, and that's the research that we're doing. How much? We're quantifying those things. So we're looking at the use phase. Yes, sir.
The big question comes, and Brian and I have been in lengthy conversations concerning the carbon reduction program that's funded through LATS, and that's where the money's coming from, not through DOT. The big question comes, through my eyes, is we're going to do 2 of our county roads this year with titanium. You have the contract for it. We'd like to do some to some of the state routes with the carbon reduction program, and I think we can get money to do it. A good example would be 170 and 278. That intersection always has traffic backed up in it. And there's other intersections that we can pick throughout the county, or areas we can pick out the county, on Hilton Head as an example. What do we have to do to get your blessing to be able to do this?
If you wanted to pay for it, a permit, I mean, I think we would.
We're going to pay for it.
Yeah, so we're not going to work. We have no problem doing that. Paying for it, we just get a permit through us. It's free. Yeah, nothing to do at night or something, depending where the traffic's going, but it's easy to do.
You're on the microphone now. Yeah, we want to do it and do some testing. Charleston County had some real good results, and Ken got an award along with Charleston County from the APWA last year for it. So there's locations where it's just crying out to use it, even going once something's figured out with the bridges, but the bridges seem to get backed up, and that, again, has a lot of carbon being dumped into it. So we're going to try to get some money out of LATS to do this, and with your blessing.
How difficult is it to test in the field after the fact versus a lab application to see how beneficial it is to kind of pre-post?
Ambient testing, I'm going to tell you, is very hard. It's hard in every environmental industry to pre and post. And again, to kind of speak on why is ambient testing hard, the conditions can very rarely be duplicated. So let's say you have a vehicle that's burning unleaded fuel and it's a Civic, Honda Civic, and we want to know how much it's cleaning the exhaust, all right? And I'm just going to give you one little scenario. Are they traveling at a constant speed? Are they accelerating or decelerating? So what's coming out of the tailpipe? What gas station did they buy their fuel from? So all of these things come into what's coming out of the tailpipe. And then how are you cleaning it up? So I'm going to tell you, we've had a really hard struggle trying to do ambient environment, and that's why we keep going with different institutions. We're now doing a lot of research with Duke as well. So to kind of lead into maybe the future of what you're talking about, ambient testing, there's drones with, I'll say, signature cameras on them, so exhaust, heat, whatever you're looking for, you might be able to outfit a drone. I understand some of these drones are like $100,000 a drone, and then you have to know what you're looking at. It's kind of like ground penetrating radar, back in the day, and trying to develop a good use for it.
How did Charleston test?
So what Charleston did was core testing. We took the cores and we sent them off to the lab so that the results could be duplicated. All right. And that was the big thing. So it was interesting because Charleston had it was an EPA level air monitoring station right next to one of our projects. And we expected to get a comparison. So in that area, it was right next to the port. So the port, overhead, interstate, down in the neck of Charleston. And it was DHEC that put the monitor out there for a short period of time. And so they were working with us. They gave us data. And so this was during COVID. All right. Everything was clean during COVID. All right. If it was smoggy before COVID, it was not smoggy during COVID. All right. And what do you think happened? We treated, and then traffic started picking up. So now we're like, what does this mean? So we're looking at the scattered data, and honestly, Mackenzie and I have looked at it. I've sent it to a couple other people. It's not a drastic rise, like there wasn't a linear rise in traffic rise. But can I tell you that we cleaned up some of that? I can't tell you that.
Just curious.
Yeah, but we had probably $2 million sampling station sitting there sucking in air and monitoring, testing. So
thermal side you may be able to get pretty easily.
Thermal, I'm going to show you a thermal image or two, yeah.
I'll say I've had some conversations with researchers at Clemson, because where I really like the plastic aspect of it. So I've had some conversations with them, and they're open to coming down and testing if we treat roads on the microplastics and how it's able to deal with that. So it's just trying to make that as controlled of a test as possible. So.
Yes, sir.
Is there anything that came out of Charleston on the water quality impacts? I mean, your
water quality?
Yeah, because your roadways are being inundated with water and the microplastics early, late. Any impact on the.
I don't know that anyone's done testing on water quality in Charleston, but we did have some water quality testing done in Durham. So one of our treated roadways was along a stream that had monitoring stations along it, and there was no negative impact by that. So the engineering manager and I talked about that actually in the fall of last year. I said, is there anything there? You know, because, well, what do you not want? Like just what we said, we don't want an unintended consequence. We don't want to deteriorate the road. We don't want to create a byproduct that's worse than the product, right? So these are things that you don't want to do. Anyone heard of PFAS? 6 ppg? All right, these are 6 ppd. So PFAS, unfortunately, is an extremely hazardous chemical. All right, EPA, it's a target right now for EPA. PFAS is a polyfluorinated, so they change the formula all the time. They get caught, they change the formula, and I didn't say that. But anyway, so they change the formula so they can keep doing a very similar process. Teflon is a PFAS derivative. Fire retardant, PFAS derivative, okay? So PFAS is just, it's in our clothes, all right? So it's in unfortunately, my watch band from Apple, look it up, okay? It's apparently irritates some people and all that, but it's there, it's a non-stick thing, all right? Well, PFAS also can coat tires. It's in the rubber that's on the roadway. And what we're finding out is this titanium dioxide can break down PFAS. It oxidizes it, all right? Is it completely breaking it down? Well, I'm gonna tell you something. Mother Nature is gonna break it down sometime over time. And all titanium dioxide is doing is putting Mother Nature closer to the source of the pollution that's causing the issue. And so if you think about what we're doing with titanium dioxide, we didn't create it, we didn't make it, that's Mother Nature. We're taking it and we're putting it where we're creating the pollution so that we can begin to oxidize some of that pollution before it gets out of the environment where it's being created or concentrated, all right? And that's kind of what we're doing. So we take those samples back to the lab and say specifically, let's test for microplastics. Specifically, let's test for PFAS, or let's test for heat island effect, or let's test for nitrous oxides coming out of the tailpipe, or sulfur oxides, or VOCs, all right? Because the material is used, it's a natural material, in concentration as a powder, you don't want to breathe it in. But in the roadway, in such low concentrations, it's sequestered inside the road. It's not a hazard. So I'm just kind of bringing up things that you may research over time and say, oh, wait a minute, you know, what about titanium dioxide as an inhalation? Well, guess what? You put it in it's in your sunscreen. You're rubbing it on you anyway, all right? You're swimming in it. It's washing off in your pool. So it's not like we're creating a concentration problem, all right? But it is natural, it's there. And that's why it's such a benefit. It's one of Mother Nature's things. Just like the maltings, it's Mother Nature's way of taking care of asphalt roadways. Titanium dioxide is one of Mother Nature's ways of cleaning up the environment. So these are some of the results in Raleigh. Tailpipe emissions were reduced in the mid-30s to 40%, up to 50%. Heat island, we've been studying this for quite a while. But one of the targets here is a 9 and an 8. That would be a solar reflective index of a hot mix asphalt. What you want to get is above 29 to say that you're influencing the solar reflective index to LEED, U.S. Green Building Standards, or Institute for Sustainable Infrastructure, and we're getting up into the 30s and 40s easily. So we're influencing the heat island in a positive way, the heat island effect. What does that look like? Well, guess what? You have a roadway that puts the heat into it. It's a hardscape. The heat radiates in during the day, and then the heat island is actually when it begins to cool at night, it re-radiates back out. With titanium dioxide, remember the chemical process? We throw an electron. That's actually taking some of the heat. Energy is not created or destroyed, but it is converted. So we're converting it into an expending of an electron, but we're also redirecting, because the titanium dioxide has a faceted face like a diamond. It's redirecting the heat out in many directions. So less heat's getting in to cause a problem during the heat island phase or the nighttime phase.
Again,
yes, sir.
You mentioned that it meets the ISI standards.
Yes.
So does this, if for like a roadway project,
Yes. Yep, if you want to go Envision, we'll help you get there.
Okay. Yep. Because we're Beaufort County's Envision certified agency. So.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, we've already been part of a lead building. So do look for that to be a growing market as well as people want it. This is thermal imagery from Raleigh. They treated, I think this whole neighborhood was treated with reclamite or the titanium, but where the blue line is on the map up here, those were the roads treated with the titanium product. And you can see down here, it's cool than the rest of the neighborhood. It's not quite as cool as the vegetated area, but it's a roadway, so it's cooler than the roadways. So just kind of a neat image that Raleigh, and so that gave Raleigh the green light to expand. And it's interesting because Raleigh's now put it into their, I forget what it's called, but their climate action plan, and Charleston County's done basically the same thing to expand the use to meet the desire of the environmental programs. These are just some of the things we're testing. Microplastics. I'm going to show you some quick pictures. A big stack of tires is converted basically to nothing. And when you look at it under an electron microscope, basically you have these little spheres that get basically dissolved away. So it's beginning that oxidative process for the microplastic itself. It's kickstarting Mother Nature's process. Carbon. So the carbon in concrete's going to take up CO2 and form a calcium carbonate layer on the surface of concrete. Titanium dioxide makes that happen faster, but once that layer is formed completely, it continues to break down CO2 in the environment. We know that because here's an example of a little test chamber. The sample is in there, and you can see the difference in those two lines. The lower line would be the treated carbon, the treated sample, and the less CO2 coming off of it. And what's pretty cool is last week I got this title, the actual title of the paper, Effects of TiO2 based surface treatments on CO2 reduction in concrete pavements. Purdue is going to send us the link to that within days. All right, so it's now published, it's going through the final review, and expected to be out in just a couple weeks at the most from when I got the email. So it's been presented, and so preliminary testing, asphalt, this is concrete, right? They've already started testing asphalt, same results, very similar results for the reduction. So this is the first of many, many, many papers that are going to be coming out on the benefits. So they're testing asphalt, CO2 reduction, they're testing microplastics, also on concrete and asphalt. They've got a rhodamine dye test, if anyone knows anything about that. But basically the rhodamine dye is put on the pavement, and if it starts to go away, it means it's being oxidized. If it doesn't, it's not. And so on a TiO2 treated road, it's going away. So that's a microplastic of sorts. So anyway, this is coming out, it's very exciting. Kind of we've already been through what we do, very simple application, again. It is a way to bring those forests into the urban environment. We have a whole set of products that we can help you with, depending on the use and where we want to put it. It goes and penetrates in. This is the only reason I have this slide here, is we're looking for a certain amount of material towards the surface, and then we want to show that it's penetrating in to the pavement so that it's there as the pavement begins to age and wear away. So it's there, and it'll be there sustained. This is actually Greenville, that was the first one here in South Carolina doing the work. After 5 years, we still had 88% titanium dioxide retention. So it's there for a long time. Proof is there with all the excitement. EPD, we are we are fixing to publish our EPD, period. We've done EPD, which is the industry standard, cradle to gate. We're into the use phase, which nobody else is. And so because we want to not just go cradle to gate, we want to go all the way to the end of life, to the grave. We want to show what we're going to reduce on the use of that asset. That's a whole lot more complicated for the industry to do calculations on, and it's taken us now about 1.5 years of going through all those calcs. But that paper I just showed you is being produced. That is one of the last nails in the coffin to get it done. And I think you'll see our EPDs, not just for what it takes cradle to gate, but cradle to end of life. Very, very soon, like within a couple months at the most. Here's some of the agencies we work for. We do work for hundreds. And this is Massachusetts DOT. MassDOT had us do shoulders going in and out of Boston on quite a few roads this year. I think it was 130 miles of their roads going in and out. And this is one of the photos of what we do. We just keep the traffic off of us. Next year, we're going to start migrating out into that travel lane. So they've already given us that project. And I think we did a little bit of tunnel work as well. So UV light in the lights in the tunnels will help oxidize pollution in a tunnel. So how many tunnels? It's kind of, where we're going with some of this. So that's really it. Any questions on our titanium dioxide? Yes, sir.
How much does the TiO2 cost add to the maltine price?
So the current pricing, I don't know, Brian, at $1.25-ish, let's say, for reclamite, and the titanium is probably somewhere around $2.25 right now. So it
50 total?
No,
Oh,
just $1 a square yard. Yeah. Yes, sir.
How long does the application last?
So longevity, the titanium. So in Greenville, we still have about 88% of what we put in the pavement to start with still in the pavement after 5 years. So I expect it to be, it's doing something. I mean, it's still doing its job there, but I'm going to guess it'll still be doing something, at the end of 10 years. You'll still be getting some benefits of it. And there's always an opportunity, if the road's in great shape, to even if we want to do a light treatment to get a little bit more in, we could probably do that too. We've just never done that.
I know what happens whenever you offer somebody a break. We'll offer you a break, and please try to be back on time. We'll take 10 minutes.
Thank you, guys.
Go to the restroom and thank you.
wrong. So I think that doing it the right way, right? We start from scratch. We do it the right way will yield what you're looking for in maintaining what you've just built the past 10 years. Examples. City of Durham, I mentioned, their program this year, like I said, 7 this year, 10 next year, 10 in 2027, 10 and 28. They're doing a bunch of maintenance. They do crack seal. They do the polymerized chip seal as an interlayer for their cape seal. Single course microservicing. They put fiberglass in their microservicing for tensile strength. And then they do the cape seals. So a lot of different varieties based on traffic count, based on having curb, based on not having curb. They have a van that goes in and shoots all their roads as far as analyzing distress, so they know where to put these things. And
They have snow too.
And they have snow. Not a bunch, but they have snow. So this is kind of after time, right? So picture on the left is Durham. It was constructed in 20. I took the picture last summer, still in really good shape. Again, on the right road, we did very minimal asphalt repair on this and crack sealed it. Another road 2 years of age, kind of look the same. With this, you do not have to mill. So we're basically feathering it right to the gutter pan. City of High Point had, it was about $1.2 million program. They did some single and double course. City of Greenville, like I said, double course microservicings all over the place. CDOT Division 1, every county in Division 1, which is basically from Virginia down the coast, received microservicing single and double courses constructed last year. Division 4 is over in Wilson County, went into the subdivisions with the type 2 aggregate and overlaid what looked to be old chip seals. So the DOT in North Carolina has a lot of local responsibility. They take care of 90-some% of the roads. So that means subdivision work, kind of like you guys have subdivisions. So they went in and did a type 2 on the subdivisions and the type 3 larger aggregate out rurally in the field areas. Forgot about South Carolina. There's Beaufort, where we're going to go look today on Toyota. And then going through, that was a couple years ago. And then out near the causeway, including the causeway. It's Rusty holding the sign, bottom right. I didn't get his fingers in there. So we've done a decent amount of microservicing in the county, and in my opinion, pretty successfully. And then we, state level, started looking to doing double course micros, and mainly because of their rutting. So we went in and leveled up a lot of their rutting. This year is going to be the biggest, it sold and we were the low bidder, biggest single contract for micro in North Carolina in Division 10, which is to the east of Charlotte, Union County, around Monroe, and stuff that nature. We're taking US 74. And we're setting a rut box in the wheel paths. It's 5 feet wide, and we're filling up all the wheel ruts with micro, and then putting a double course over everything. 6 lanes, 3 lanes in each direction. Big project. But up in the mountains, Vienna Dozier Road, Division 9, double course, beautiful. City of Greenville, South Carolina, basically at the technical center there at Clemson. This was a what they call a high mod micro. It was initiated or facilitated through Ergon. We were the contractor to put it down, but it actually increased the latex modification from 3% to 6%. Looked like bubble gum going down. It actually slowed our motor down because of how thick it was, a couple, 3 times. But it drastically increased the price because polymer by the ton is as much as asphalt nowadays. So they're going back to the 3% and extending out where we stopped in this university area. Charleston County, been a great customer for years. McKinsey there started doing, our program last year was all double courses. So It actually smoothed the road out much better than the road originally. As Ken mentioned at the onset, through the National Center for Pavement Preservation, both in North and South Carolina, we have formed pavement preservation councils, kind of a subset to act as your liaison for technical questions, hopefully be an advocate through the DOT to work on specifications. But these individuals have agreed with Nick DePalma from the city of Greenville to be our president. Ken and myself are both on it, Brian from Beaufort, Mackenzie, and a host of other academia and engineering individuals. So collectively as a group, we're here. So we want to work with y'all from the state, work with y'all from the county, and move this thing forward to, it's not a, please do more. It's how can we make this better? So we're positioned to really be of benefit to you guys and a liaison for your needs, preservation-wise. So it doesn't matter if it's all the tools in the toolbox. This will be represented here. So that's what I had for you guys today. Questions?
I have a question for the chairman. Which one of these tools, I'll use your word, did we use on Bluffton Parkway that clearly didn't work?
We did microsurfacing on Bluffton Parkway, and it was a one-coat microsurfacing. But the true answer is to have the design life was to be achieved for that road something like 15 or 18 years.
Right.
And it achieved its traffic count at year 10, and it broke down. And the subgrade underneath it was in such bad condition. That's why you see the blocks. And now today, we used of our $4.8 million, 2.4 to take the section from Buck Island down to the traffic circle and are going to do mill and fill on it.
We are.
We are. The contract was, this board approved it. It'll come now to county council for council's approval, but this is where it started, and we funded it, the fix, which, yes, it's a county road, but it was a recognition on our part that it's one of the more heavily traveled roads that the county owns in the county, and it needed attention, and this was a one-time allotment of money, and if we get more money again, we'll probably consider. But if you notice, what's really funny about it, once you get to the traffic circle going further east, it's in better shape.
Yes,
And
but
it's-
at that one stretch, my car doesn't like it.
It was because that area gets the highest volume and got beat up the worst of it. And so in reality, that's what caused the short and long of it. But we've also talked about continuing on. We've also talked about, Brian and I talked earlier about at the bridges coming back this way, there's a section in there that also gets a lot of traffic. And if we get additional funding from the state this year, we sure as hell would consider putting it there.
And you're right, that road is highly traveled.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that section right there, that's really bad. That's actually
Yep.
with the section from Buckingham to the flyover being
Yes.
from Buckwalter to 170.
Because it was really nice when you first did it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is great. Now it's, oh, no.
Well, hopefully by 1 July, it will look like new.
Oh, good. Okay, thanks. It's horrible.
DOT project, not ours.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry about that.
Tracy? Lands End?
Lands End. We're out there, we're gonna have the contractor going out there tomorrow to cover up the pave.
I mean, I'm just trying to see what process.
That's not me. That's not me.
It's not them, it's
No,
DOT,
no,
it's
I'm
on
not
us.
saying that, but I want to.
Life is doing it.
So they did full depth reclamation, and then are doing a asphalt
In the rehab, kind of the lower end of that is what we're doing, kind of the rebuild. Other sections under contract, closer to the end of Land's End.
That's rehab too.
We actually, when Elizabeth was here, and I'll test your memory, because if you recall, we gave $800,000 back to the state to use on that road. We didn't have enough miles that we had spent our CTC funds on, and we turned them over and gave it to the state to meet our criteria, 33%.
I have another question, Chairman. Since, I mean, you guys have all this knowledge, and we have so many HOAs, gated communities, especially south of the Broad, I can't speak of north. Do you ever get them together and share some of this knowledge with them? I mean, Sun City, we have 160 miles of roads. Some of them are 30 years old, and some of this, you know, has to be done early and so on. But do you ever convene some groups and give them what you know?
I've helped with several. Belfair, where I live.
Yeah, well, that doesn't help me.
And there's been several other communities that have done their own pavement programs. And the whole community's done one.
Yeah.
What Tim mentioned,
I have that, yeah.
it's a really good resource.
Right.
They have what they call road good training.
Okay.
I've gone through it. Rusty's gone through it. It teaches a lot about. Calculator on there that can look at if you do analysis of it, comparison. So it's a great resource. They were doing LTAP was trying to do some pavement preservation courses, but they didn't have enough to sign up. Other resources around that would be good, but no, as far as
The answer is, I will help you.
Okay, because we've done the road study, we have the engineering study, we know what, you know, whatever you call that.
We have to also tie in traffic count and so on with it.
Yeah, we're a
One of the
mess.
things that I'm going to ask Chad, I've wanted to take the course that he just talked about. And yes, it cost $50 or $100. And I said, well, gee, can I use the administrative funds to pay for me or somebody else on my committee to go to it, take it?
Microphone. But yeah, I'll find out and get back to you.
Yeah, I had signed up for the course, and then all of a sudden it was $100 or something, and yeah, I give so much time away, and now I'm wanting to pay $100 for take a damn course. You know, that doesn't make sense.
Mr. Manning, that this is what I was referring to on the comparing that you go in and they tell you based on the subsection of the road what processes are applicable to do. And once you put in all your criteria and your ratings you're talking about, you plug that all in and it'll give you a host of information to choose from. And so if you follow the gray down to F, that's failure, right? So you have these different mill and fill processes, but keeping your road at a high level of serviceability by doing rejuvenating takeoff fog seal, that's KIN, crack seal, microsurfacing, cape seals, and then you do an asphalt overlay the same amount of time, length of time, and you're $280 million different. That's, like you said, the brushing of the teeth, the changing the oil in the car, putting the roof on the house. It's keeping it for a little bit of money rather than buying a whole new house, getting a root canal, buying a whole new car. Same mentality.
That's on roadresource.org?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So I guess what I was going to ask is, so when you come in, you do this, is there a performance issue or a warranty, or like in 6 months if it all falls apart?
Yeah, it's standard industry warranty is a year. If
we're going to
anything's really
do.
going to get up and walk away, it's going to be in the first couple of months, actually, because it wasn't right. And my experience in Ohio is that they used to have a 3, a 5, and a 7-year warranty on their microservicing. And my 20-some years there, they only had one claim because the contractor paved over a mud flap, and it came up. So they're like, okay, we're paying a premium for these warranties, so they just got rid of them. So with mixed designs and JMFs and all that, state-approved quarries and the right liquids, you really don't see failure like that.
The answer also is, when we started this, really in 2016, when the committee was reformed and members reappointed to it, what happened was, in 2017, we did our first road analysis. The man sitting next to you worked for FNME and did it at that point in time. 4 years later, after we completed our first 5-year program, in our 4th year, we had an FNME, he was no longer with them, but FNME, he was still with them. And they went back and then looked at the pavement techniques that we had used and made a comparison of what was good, what was bad, what was really working, so that the next 5-year program, and now when we put this out to bid, when Brian puts it out to bid for our next engineer to do our next 5-year program, one of the things they're going to look at is that year 1 program that we had, year 4 program, and now the new program, and look at all the things that we've used in our toolbox. I can say, very honestly, Tab, when we look at the 233 miles that we've touched, other than that Bluffton Parkway, we've done, and I'm bragging for the committee, they've done a hell of a good job. We've done a hell of a good job of really using the right tools, and it'll be verified for us whenever the engineers do our next report for us. And that's what's really great about doing the 5-year plans.
The other road I noticed is deteriorating is 170. When you go up to Beaufort, you got a lot of the road just chumping off there.
I don't own it. You don't own it.
I know. Unfortunately, my car drives it, so again, it's still a problem. You guys own it, right?
Areas where we had microservices pop up and we had to spend a ton of money to fix it.
A lot of people travel that.
It's a heavily traveled road. I'm not a big fan of microservicing on that. Just popping up on US 52, Goose Creek. Hard to go back and I was going to ask Tim, is there a fix for that, for those thin areas? You're talking about a 1/4 inch, so you can't really get a hot mix. Unless you get a type E or a type D mix. Get a loop and taking the time, but we've got a lot of.
Well, what's worrisome is the traffic on 170 is horrendous. So those patches or those areas are just going to continue to deteriorate.
Depending on where you look, the ADT at 170 and 278, I think, is 35,000 a day. When you compare it to I-95, which is 55,000 ADT, and those numbers are correct. So you go out a little further away from that intersection, it gets less and less going either direction. But right around 278 and 170, and that's why the redesign was done and everything else that was done.
And that looks great. I mean, that's really great. But when you go so if I go to Beaufort in the morning up 170, I praise the Lord that I'm going to Beaufort, not coming down, because that traffic's bumper to bumper to bumper. So that's heavily traveled. And when I come back, I'm bumper to bumper to bumper coming to 278. But I notice even on the way there, there's just pieces of the road that are deteriorating. And I try to avoid them, to save my car, but it doesn't work.
That's, did a study. We did the near-term improvements on it, but the intermediate and long-term solutions, it's going to take a lot of money to fix.
I figured that was the case. Okay.
I want to tell you a short story. To your point there on the end, we were doing double course microservicings on I-71 between Cincinnati and Cleveland, very successfully, years and years and years. And we resourced an aggregate out of Canada called Ontario Trap Rock. It's a black aggregate, it's very hard, very durable, and in District 3, which is around Ashland, Ohio, it's a big Amish community, a lot of buggies, and so they were looking for an answer for something that wouldn't get chewed up by the buggy traffic and horses and stuff of that nature. So they went with this Ontario Trap Rock on a secondary route into the town of Worcester, and it performed wonderfully. It withheld, it held up very good. So the people at the district got the idea, well, instead of doing double course microservicings, why don't we just put this Trap Rock single course out on I-71 the next time it's due? I said, please don't. The traffic count, the trucks, it's too much. But they didn't listen, and they put it out there, and it did exactly like you said. It blew up in certain areas. So the moral of the story is, in some of the issues, I know you may have a bad taste in your mouth about micro from the past, but again, putting down the right application for the environment is super important. I want to say double course cures all ills, but it sure as heck helps.
I could go on and say that where you look at, we did the rest of it on this same road, Bluffton Parkway, it was all good, but the area that really failed had serious cracking underneath it, and water we had a very bad rain day. It rained like 2 inches within 24 hours, and that rain got underneath, and man, almost instantaneously, within a 2 or 3 day period, pop, 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 and it just spread like wildfire, and it come up from underneath from all the rain.
Not in this county, but in this district, I think we're going to maybe take a baby step potentially to put a small program out, and I've looked at some roads already, and they're excellent candidates. They don't have the extensive cracking like before. They don't have the repairs that need to be done, and we're just told to go ahead and overlay, even though we didn't repair them, go ahead and overlay those areas, and then it fails, and you wonder why, right? So doing the right thing, I don't mind saying no, but I'm here to drive your roads and pick those good candidates to lightly step back into it and then grow the confidence and then do the right application. And you'll see that, all the states around you are doing it, from Georgia to Florida to North Carolina, very, very successfully. There wouldn't be these global organizations if it was a failed product and just not good, right? You got to put it on the right road. So I thank you for your time.
Tim, I want to thank you. I guess Ken's in the other room, but I thank you for being here for us this afternoon, and thank you for putting on the presentations that you've done. Thank you all for coming down. Very much appreciate you being here. We enjoy having you here. The cooperation, as I said at the start of this meeting, between DOT and the district level as well as mother DOT. We thank you all for being here. And thanks again for being, thanks guys, appreciate you all.
We did a road study. Well, we did it in 2005. That was before we had, so how often do we have to do it?